Hello, my friends, and welcome to MSP Unplugged. I'm your host, Rick Smith. This is the place to learn tips, tricks, and strategies that help you grow and expand your IT business, whether you're a one-person shop or leading a team for the journey. My friends, this is the place for you. I'm joined by my co-host. We have a full house today. First and foremost, Chicago's own Mr. Paco Lebron of ProdigyTeks. How are you, sir?
Oh, you know what I like to say, Mr. Smith. Better than good, better than most.
Well, that's good. That's good. How's the Chicago weather treating you?
Cold. It snowed for the first time yesterday for the season. And yeah, it was funny. I came down with something really fierce last night. I thought I wasn't going to make it this morning, but here I am, ready to go.
Ready to go. Okay. And I want to welcome in our newest member. Well, he's not new anymore. He's got some shows under his belt, but from Texas, Mr. Corey Kirkendoll. How are you today, sir?
Man, I'm good, man. I'm good, man. You know, living the dream down here in Texas, brother. Living the dream.
That's good. Now I'll ask you, but I think Paco and I are gonna get jealous. But how's the weather there?
Man, it's weird, man. So we drop down to 40s, jump up to 70, drop back down to 40. So we're in that weird season right now, man. But hey, it's Texas, man. It could be 105 by the end of the day, so we don't know. So we just take what we get. We just take what we get.
I hear you. I hear you. Well, we're going to kick off the show with something we're trying to do now every time. We're going to start with a little tip, trick, strategy, or some kind of story that you might have that might help the audience. So, Paco, you want to get us started?
Sure. Let's see, a tip, story, or situation we got there. You always got to make the best out of what you got. It's kind of the best way I could say it. So this week we ended up getting invited to a lunch and learn. Shout out to the channel company and WatchGuard. We're not a WatchGuard partner, but we decided to, educate ourselves, meet a couple folks there. I figured maybe some opportunities to help with some new relationships, things of that nature. And so when I looked at the attendee list of those that were coming, it actually was a distributor that I was looking to work with, which is PC Nation out in Northfield. So as everyone knows, and I kind of talked about this, we've really geared up on what is going to be our plan for the upcoming October 2025 replacement of Windows 10, whether that be systems or upgrades and things of that nature. So our plan was to partner with PC Nation so that when we do start, ripping and replacing and prospecting and things of that nature, we have this ability with them and our partner at FlexPoint to start financing a lot of these deals, so that it's not as harmful, but not as pressure to the client as they need to get to this new, digital front, I guess is the best way to say it. So saw that he was there, was the area vice president, went down there, had a great conversation. We got some things working up where, trying to limit some pressure on ourselves, these onesie twosies that we usually purchase on our own to then deliver. We're building out a referral system over to them. And then, as the bigger replacements, we got something going on from there. So, didn't expect to have that ability to have that person, face to face, and especially nowadays. So again, making the most of what you got for what you have. And it really helped us out, at least on the PTech side over here.
Corey, you got anything for us this week?
Yeah, man. So what I've been doing is spending time looking at tools of how to better provide customer service and ticket situation from our perspective. So I spent a lot of time. We're a Ring Central shop down here in Dallas. And so what we did is we turned up Ring FX, right, which is their Ring Central AI component, which records each calls. And after the end of every call, it automatically generates a breakdown of what the call was, who called, what is the call about, what the action item was, and what that perspective is, which is cool because now I can literally take that information once the call is over, pop that straight in the case, and then have a great opportunity to sit down, and no matter who picks up the call can re-interact with it and say, hey, here's what's called, here's what the problem is, here's what the urgency was, here's everything was. It just gives a better context of what needs to be done so nothing falls through the cracks. So man, leveraging some of the tools that you already have, go back, take a look at where they are and what new features they have, because they may have some new features that you're just not aware of. You can turn them up and really advance your practice and do something different almost for free, what you're already paying for, you just haven't turned it on.
Yeah, we got to pay attention to that. Now, for me, it's always, I always got a story, but this will be a quick one. And I'm going to title this, Ask Relevant Questions of Your Clients or your customers. Last week when Corey and I were talking about budgeting and having these conversations with our clients, just getting prepared for what's going, for their budgets, but having these frequent conversations that we understand what's going on. I scheduled a meeting with a client just to go over really about next year's budget and some things he's going to have to change. They actually have 6 machines that are going to have to be changed to Windows, that are running Windows 10 that have to be changed. They're not going to be able to go to Windows 11. So we started, the conversation started that way. Now, what was great about it was I used our CRM. So I gave him the link and I said, hey, just book some time with me. Here's a link, book some time with me. And, we'll take 30 minutes and we'll talk through, what you need, what I'm telling you, basically. He did that and he was impressed with the flow of the CRM, right? So he says to me, how'd you do that? And because, so I said, we use a CRM and we basically make these steps and it does it. And he's like, interesting. We have a new product we're doing now, and it's some kind of body sculpt. He's a doctor, and some kind of body sculpting machine. And he said, we've been trying to market it, and I miss the calls when people schedule. I miss the calls. They use Calendly basically and get the appointments booked, but he forgets to check it to know when to call. So we just talked about it, and I put him, I explained to him what was going on, and he asked me, could I explain it to someone else, which I'm going to meet with later. But he sent me a message this morning. He says, I'm really thankful. He said, thanks a lot for taking the time to explain to me how that works. And I'm hoping that this can help us with our marketing efforts to get this product on the move, basically. And he said, and he finished that up with, we never really got to talk about the computers, but whatever you need, just tell me when I got to pay for it and they're yours. Now, what that brings me to is when you find out, what clients need, sometimes we pay attention. They may not necessarily be in our scope of what we offer, but if you can offer them a way to solve their issue, it goes a long way in credibility with you and getting the things you get done. We never got to the conversation about the computers getting replaced because we spent all the time talking about the automation for him and getting that part set up. But what is good about that is, again, I got the order without having to ask for it. And I also was able to solve another problem for him. So, and it goes back to, I pay attention a lot now. We're trying to do a lot more marketing, a lot more, just in general and growing. And that's what I'm going to put a lot of my effort into for 2025 is the marketing and the sales portion of this. And the main thing that we have to realize is we have to solve a problem for a customer. And that's what brings them to us, or that's what attracts new business to us, which just leads into our topic for today, incidentally. But, it was a good lesson for me that pay attention to what he says. It's not just tech related or not just related to what you do for him, because you can solve a problem for him, which can help you solve the other problem that you had that you were coming to address him with. So I just wanted to leave that out there. So I guess I'll say it this way. Just pay attention to all your customers' needs, not just the ones that you can fulfill.
That's what's up.
And with that, we're going to move into our topic for today. And that is basically a little bit, like I said, it's about acquiring clients. Recently, there was a poll out that Paco put out in the MSP Facebook group, just asking some things that we're struggling with and some things that, we're focused on. And this became acquiring new clients became basically was the most quote unquote popular choice or most popular answer. So since this was Paco's idea, and I'm going to let him drive it from here.
Yeah. I mean, I think for, obviously the purpose of the poll is that, we are in this fourth quarter living series, right? And really understanding how to prepare yourself and get on the right path for 2025. But we do understand that there is a process to trying to do this. And in the end of the day, we're trying to acquire clients to build revenue, building revenue to pay salaries and profits, and ultimately so you can live on a well-based situation so that you can do this, enjoy what you're doing, and have the flexibility of being that entrepreneur or business owner, right? And so when I put the post up, acquiring clients being one of them, I started to think about, all right, how do we go around, because everyone always has that question, how do I get new clients, right? And I always see in the industry that there's a lot of fluff that gets pulled into a lot of that, right? But I think what a lot of people, when the answers to this question is, a lot of people don't pull from their own experiences, right? And hey, here's how I did it. And sometimes it hits to another person a lot harder than like, you should go ahead into your chamber. You should go ahead and go to this thing, blah, blah, blah. And you're going to go ahead and get clients. Like there's no how-tos, in my opinion, especially in the early stages. And obviously that's the hope for us, is to how do we provide some of those that may be struggling and trying to figure out, is it going to be what they need to do right now? Or, are they going to have to make some hard choices? This is the time where I remember myself back in 2018 making some of these same decisions and being able to make the changes I made and kind of move forward from there. So that's the purpose of the poll. That's the purpose of the topic. That's the purpose of this whole podcast that we have for today. Now, as far as, acquiring clients, I think we can probably talk about what we're doing, at least for us right now, and what are we currently investing in. And so it shouldn't be no surprise to anyone, is we're doing a heavy investment inside of our sales and marketing. But we're doing this with a specific tact in front. I think what we used to do in the past was we hired a salesperson and said, find me clients, right? And there was no real strategy or structure behind it. The assumption was they were going to assemble the lists, they were going to qualify the lists, and then they were going to make the cold calls, they would appointment set, and then they would close. And oftentimes, and I learned this at one of the marketing conferences, is what you expected one person to do is really a several different type of role situation. The person who is gathering the details in the list may not be the one that's cold calling. The one that's cold calling and appointment setting may not be the closer. The closer is not going to want to go ahead and get leads and not want to verify lists. They want to just get the deal and close it. So this was something I had to learn early on. And so we put that in place where we had an appointment setter. We have a person that's combining and creating our lists. I'm qualifying these lists because we have our own qualifications. Now, what do I mean by qualification? Who is the client that you want to do business with? Is it a 20-person client that you want to deal with? Do you want to deal with a 50-person client, a 100-person client? Are you just looking to get at least 5? You want to determine what's the size, what's the revenue, what are you trying to do to make the sale? Are you trying to get project work? Are you trying to get managed services? So you want to figure out that part as you can qualify for your list so that you can do the appointment setting. So that's what we're doing right now as far as on the sales side. And then we're really investing in the marketing, which Rick will laugh at me because I've been bothering him for the past 2 weeks. So we've decided that we're going all in on our particular niches. And so for us, we primarily deal with construction, manufacturing, and also in employment law, but specifically in the Latino sector. That's where we're a little bit different on where we attach ourselves to. And so we found a lot of great success in some of the associations, the councils that I have sat on, I've partnered with, and now we're building out a lot of the things on our own. You all will probably laugh at me, but for we've been doing this for almost 10 years now for the podcasting. I've been on YouTube. We've been doing the podcast, audio vise, things of that nature, but I have yet to put one video out for my own company in the same fashion. I have not organized an event for my own company, but have done for MSP Unplugged. So right now it's me reprogramming my brain of doing everything that I've done in MSP Unplugged, and how do I apply that to ProdigyTeks, right? And so we're doing that. We're generating our first webinars off of Teams. And for those that don't know about Teams, you can do it. You can run a webinar off of it. You don't have to pay for another piece of software. We are doing an in-person event. We have a couple of our partners that are supporting us on this, meaning vendors that I'm paying money to, that is allowing me to support my clients. I'm asking them to help me out to attract more clients to buy more of their software and more of their services. 9 times out of 10, if you make the case properly, they're going to help you out, especially if you have those that are partners, not just a vendor that is just you're buying the services and you're talking to them every day, you're having great relationships, things of that nature. Some would call it MDF. I call it they're helping out a friend. You scratch my back, I scratch yours. Needless to say, synonyms, we'll go from there. But that's what we're doing here right now. And then really investing inside of our content. We've partnered with MSP Camp. We are partnering with several others and really driving home on our marketing efforts, along with partnering with marketing strategists to help us understand what are we trying to do for the next from now up until the end of next quarter, and how do we make sure that that's going to go from investment to dollars coming into our business. So that's what we're doing. We're investing sales and marketing. That's how we're doing it. That's what I got going on currently for us right now.
Sounds good. Corey,
Busy,
what
busy.
do you good, I'm sorry.
No, busy, man. I hear you, Paco.
Yeah, and I think it's a good I find it funny, and Corey, I'm going to let you go first on this, but I just find it interesting. I couldn't help but laugh, talk about all of the podcasts you've done and all of the appearances, and you don't even think about the fact that you've done it on the MSP Unplugged, which used to be the Computer Business Podcast. Also, all of the places you've guest visited on that you've done. I know you've done a lot of things for Super Ops lately, but there's been a lot of vendors you've done some things for, and it's just amazing that we pay attention and we do all of those, and then when you go back and look at your own page, it's like blank.
Right. Yeah, like all of my socials, all the whatever. But yeah, I mean, again, there also is, there's passion, right? And I think that going through what I go through in ProdigyTeks just allows me to say I need to really help out those that are like us, right? That are trying to figure it out. They're trying to struggle, and like that feeling sucks. And how do we try and fix that for them? Because, and for those that haven't heard my story, I have plenty of podcasts from the past that you can listen into on like all the crap that has gone through for me to get to where I am now. Definitely interesting times for sure for those to listen in and kind of hopefully take that back to themselves and drive it home.
Exactly. Corey, what are you doing now to look for new business or attract clients?
Yeah. So I look at it the same way as most people don't call up and be like, look, I'm looking for a managed service provider, right? They unless it's painful, they're saying, hey, I need VoIP, I need a server, I need a project, I need something you're doing. And because there's so many MSPs, man, like I say here in Dallas, man, I can literally take a rock, throw it, and hit 6 in the head, and just that easy. So it's definitely there. And what we find out is sometimes it's a race to the bottom when you get down to price and where it comes from, right? It's like, hey, here's what it is. But the main thing for us is we take a very sniper approach, just like Paco said, is know your niche, know where you're coming from. That's not saying, hey, I'm only going to work with plumbers or I only want to work whatever. I only want to work with it, but you're going to be very snipered and be very meticulous in going after them. One, you're going to know their industry, their product, and everything they have to do and what the top products is so that you can talk their language and actually go down and have that conversation. But also we mixed it up with some campaigns that actually talks about voice over IP, disaster recovery, backup, spam, those kind of deals, because those are the door openers to get in that process to go do. The other thing that we do, man, if I'm walking down the street or I'm out and I see a Spectrum, a AT&T, a Frontier cable guy that's out there, I have a referral program for them, because at the end of the day, they're in the closet of where I want to be. And most of the time they can't go past that process of saying, hey, I'm hooking up this new circuit because they just got, a 1 gig circuit coming from a 500. We know what's going to happen, right? They're going to change the IP address on the public side, need to be reconfigured. And they're looking for the AT&T guy to do it. And he's like, nah, that's not my deal. I'm pop here, pop. I tested it. It's good. And the next thing they ask him is, do you know somebody that knows how to do that? And most of the time he's like, nope. And he's out. It's not his deal. But we give them cards, we do whatever it is, and we do a referral program for them because they can tell us what's in the closet. Hey, and then what routers it is and what it is. They handed it off. And then we pay them $25 for that warm referral. And they just throw it at us and say, hey, man, call these guys. I just left them. They got a situation that we know that they needed. They don't have IT. And you're going to solve the problem for it. That's a quick door opener to get in there to say, hey, one, I proved out my services and kind of how it goes, right? Leveraging. The other thing that we do is we spend a lot of time trying to find people that service the same clients that we support, right? That's commercial real estate guys, insurance guys, small business loan bankers, right? Those guys who are looking for the same thing, that see the clients that are coming in want to start a business, want to open a business, want to do certain things, which has a direct need from an IT perspective. And again, we work with them because they refer back, and they just like we refer back. Somebody comes up and says, hey, we're getting started. Hey, do you have somebody in insurance? Yeah, I got Kevin. That's me. I'll hook you up with him. And he does it vice versa. So having that community of trusted partners from a relationship perspective that works, they drive business back to really where you ultimately want to go. And then I think last is you got to go be where your customers are. We spend time at the North Texas, Collin County, Dallas Bar Association because we deal with lawyers. We deal at the healthcare fairs and actually have vendors and go in there. And what you'll find out, what's really cool is that most of these organizations out there are looking for CPE credits because they have to maintain a certain level of training and education. And they're looking for people to come in and speak on topics, whether it's security, IT security, or whatever that is, and they offer that back and they just want you to come speak. So think about it. They're paying you or asking you to come speak to an audience of 400 people that they marketed to, that you're on the agenda for, to talk about the value of what it is, not necessarily your product, but saying, hey, I'm an expert in what I'm talking about, and I can hand out my materials at the back of the room. That's easy peasy, right? And that's a great opportunity to go do that. So really being strategic and getting involved and being where your customers are and where they are, because once they see you and they're in this situation, then you're supposed to be there. So you must have some knowledge of where it comes from, so that they trust you from that perspective. And if you're on stage, then it's a different conversation. They already know what it is. You're having that conversation. That's just an easy, low-hanging fruit to pick it off and go down that path. So we kind of have all those things running in parallel, because that's the value, right? Hitting the clients that, one, willing and understand, trust technology, that understand the value of what it is, and you've been able to get out there and establish yourself as the expert. So it's a win-win for everybody.
Yeah, I mean, going off of what you said, Corey, I started doing this year where I started attending my clients' industries events. So I started going to construction events, construction expos. And what I quickly learned is when we attend events, right, our concept is, all right, we want to talk to the attendees, especially with a networking event or things of that nature from like a chamber or for a commerce. What I learned going to an industry specific event is not only are the attendees there as potential clients, but the vendors who are actually providing those services could be potentially clients as well. I was at a construction expo about last month, I think it was. Yeah, about last month. And when I went, I not only talked to so many people there, but specifically I saw the vendors that my clients were talking to. And so, I was able to talk to Autodesk. I was able to talk to Procore. And so I was like, hey, are you guys doing anything with MSPs, or are you guys doing, and how do we better understand your solutions and things like that? So it was a great conversation that we had. And now we've built some relationships so that when I do have new construction companies coming to me and they're saying, hey, we're on this like bubblegum paperclip type system that we put together, how do we get our stuff more situated? I'm not familiar with a bunch of systems that of their industry to actually refer them to. And I don't have to learn it per se, right? I can learn it on a technical aspect, an onboarding aspect, but I can lead that into their support, their team, their white glove service that they may have. And now I look like the good guy because I understand their needs, right? Understood what their pain points are and apply that to myself. So next year, we're likely going to be sponsoring or getting a booth at there. But for those that do trade shows, one piece of advice that I have received was you don't just want to be there with a booth and paper and like placards and brochures and stuff like that. People are only going to remember the experience that you're going to have there. So what kind of experience can you apply to them that would adhere to them specifically? When I was there, I don't remember anything else other than two things. One, there was a booth that was giving out free empanadas, and everyone was raving about how great the empanadas were. And two, there was a golf simulator that was at a vendor, and everybody was whacking the crap out of it with Grandpa Murphy and being able to go ahead. And that's what I call the drivers, Grandpa Murphy, for those that think that's elderly abuse. I'm not talking about that. And so going through there. And so that's what I remember of the event. Everyone else who had like their doors and their products and samples, I didn't remember. So that's going back to you all for you to remember. again, if you do decide to do a trade show, which historically from other people have said there's low ROI, if you do provide the experience and you're going in there for brand awareness, you're going to come out on top. But that's my long-winded add on to that.
I'm gonna add one more thing to that, right? The biggest challenge, no matter what you do, and where I think we all fall through the cracks for, and I think Rick and you have talked about it, is it's all about the follow-up. It's all about the follow-up. If you don't have a CRM or something to follow up, man, what you're doing is you're warming them up for someone else to take them over. Right. So think about it. You put all that effort into that. You build them up. You told them about MSP service. You told them how great it is and where it comes from. Rick has been banging on them for 6 months. Then Rick says, they're not going to buy it. And Paco calls him right on that 6 month and 1 day. And guess who gets the deal? Paco does. Right.
From Rick, all my hard work.
So follow up, man. Follow up, right? That's what you do. You follow up. Rick runs them up, Paco steals them, right? And you can tell that happens in the industry so much, is the follow up. The answer is not done until they tell me no. And then when they tell me no, that means not right now. I'll keep putting you on the drip and keep it moving, but follow up, right?
And that goes back to that marketing adage. They say you got to touch a client at least 9 times or something like that before they even start.
I've heard all kinds of numbers on that one. I've heard 17. I've heard 21. I've heard 7. Like, I never know what the final answer is to that question, to be honest with you, because I always feel like it changes.
And you know what the funny thing is, if you think about it, right? We go through, and I know this has been my experience, where we go through and we'll talk to a client, they say no or they don't respond or whatever, right? Sometimes it'll come back later, 6 months, a year, whatever later, and they remember you for something else, right? And then they come to you, and then you're doing business with them after you didn't gave up on them. But it goes back to if you can keep your name constantly on their mind somehow, when the problem does come up, they'll come back to you then, because then they remember that's the guy that, keeps sending me all of this stuff, or the guy that told me this or told me that, or, whatever the case may be. And it goes back to, again, what you guys were talking about the follow-up, about having a plan, and about showing a customer. And when I'm learning, again, like this experience I talked about earlier in the show, is part of this, is learning about the whole thing about us. And I hate to use the word selling, but it is sales, right? The whole thing about us selling our services to clients, they have to see how it really solves a problem for them, because a lot of times they don't relate what they're going through to a problem that we can solve, or sometimes they even think it's a problem that's not solvable. And what I mean by that, you ever go, and I just recorded this, I haven't released it yet, I'm gonna try to edit it, and talking about Paco getting his stuff out on YouTube finally. And this goes back to this whole new computer concept. You ever go somewhere and like you ever go to a call and the receptionist or whoever's computer is running like slow, and you're saying, is your computer always this slow? They go, oh, it's fine to me, because they don't know the difference, right? They don't know what fast is until they see what fast is. So if I've come in and I've always been seeing the machine, take 2.5 minutes to go from page to page, or whatever the case may be, from opening a file, that's what I think it does, right? This is what I think the system is.
Or they'll turn on the computer and they'll walk to get a cup of coffee, and by the time they come back, it should be going there.
Exactly. So, and it goes back to really just, finding those problems and letting people know that these are things that you should not be dealing with is all part of the marketing strategy. Now, for me, I'm just going to do this quick so we can wrap this up here. But for me, I'm pretty much in the same boat as Paco, and everybody knows we kind of mirror each other on issues, and that's really because we talk about it a lot together, right? And I've done the same thing I've been saying for years, and I'll just relate this back to, and I'm going to give credit to Jennifer Bleem for this, right? Back when we had the TechCon in 2020, I think it was, maybe I'm wrong, I think it was 2021 in Chicago at the
when she was at our event, that was 2021. Yep.
Okay, 2021. Jennifer talked about, her talk was about MSPs doing video, right? Doing stuff on YouTube. I remember that, and I remember coming on the show maybe 3 or 4 times and talking about it, saying this was what I was going to start doing. It is 2024. I still do not have one video for Renactus technology up in my page. I started the page, got it all set, got a nice little background, everything, but nothing in it. And
I have a few. Shout out to MSP on camp. So, you know.
Yeah. and it's just so I guess two things is, one, we always, and I know me, I try to be a perfectionist with everything, and I'm learning you just got to do it. You just got to start. Right. A lot of you who watch me on this show know that I sucked when I started. I still suck, but I'm getting a little better. I suck less now, but I was always worried about that. Say it again.
Embrace the suck.
Embrace the suck. Exactly. And so, and this doesn't just relate to recording on your YouTube page, which I do think is a good idea, because it's all a cycle, right? The more client sees you, the more you become an authority on what you're talking about, right? And you just never know, that one time they're scraping through and your title says something that relates to a problem they're having in their business, you are now the man, right? You are now the authority on this. So they're gonna scroll and check maybe more of your videos out. But my whole point in all of this is, whether it's video, whether it's writing blogs, whether it's, sending out, like Corey said, the drip campaign, or showing up at shows, at trade shows, or speaking, at trade events, whatever it may be, it's not going to be perfect the first time or the first couple of times, right? But you just got to do it, because the only way you're going to get better at it is to do it, learn what works, learn what doesn't work, refine your approach, and then you make it better. So it's always going to be something. Like, I'm not going to ever be as good speaking on the show as Paco is, right? And that's just it's not a competition. It's just the way we do things. He's a little more comfortable with it than I am, right? But two things I've learned: you're not necessarily as bad as you think you are, because you're always your own worst critic.
Yep.
And two, whatever it is, the effort is what you learn from, right? You learn, because if you sit there and you keep trying this, you keep planning to do it and never get it done, you're going to stay where you are, right? So, I mean, it's for all kinds of ways that you go out and acquire clients. And if you want to, like Paco said about remembering certain things about, about vendor shows, you may not remember the vendor name or or what it is, but you remember these certain things. Don't be afraid to do something off the cuff that you haven't seen anybody else do. You never know if that is the thing that attracts people to you.
100%. You know what, Rick? And I think that's a great idea. And I want to throw this to Corey, because I know he's got a hard stop here in about 9 minutes. But, I want to go into, what did we do to get our very first client, right? And what was that like? So, Corey, I know you're on a short time frame, so I want to toss this over to you. Like, how did you get your first client? How did that hard work, and what did you do? And how did the relationship, or how did that come about where you were able to get that first client for yourself for 5K?
Yeah. So that from first client, man, still my client to this day, right? That was my first client. And so what we did was, I was in there doing support and kind of doing it on volunteer. We do a lot of churches and nonprofits. And so I told them that, they were a business. And what happened is, they had a volunteer team that would do support. They would be down all day until somebody got off work at 5 and what it was. So we wrote up a process and says what it was. And after I did that, they were like, well, why don't you respond, right? I say, well, it's not cool that I respond to what I wrote, but he said, hey, you respond. So then obviously I won it. But what it was, man, is what it taught me is ask, right? Ask and actually deliver. They actually saw my work, saw what we did, knew what we needed to get done, trusted that we needed to get it done. And again, 16 years later, they're still our client, and we continue to go down that path. Is don't be afraid to ask, right? My mom always tell me, you probably heard it, right? Closed mouth don't get fed, right? Is ask. And that was the biggest deal. And what's been great about that is, because we do support a lot of large churches, is we were not afraid that once we've sit down over the last 16 years to refer, is saying, hey, you like what we do, what we do, we have it. Who do you know that would benefit from our services? And we ask consistently all the time, hey, anybody else, somebody out there, what it is, and do that referral base from asking. I mean, it's what happens, right? You figure that out. And I think a lot of time MSPs are afraid to ask their customers for a referral. And but those guys are already in, right? They're already drinking the Kool-Aid. They know your services, and if they trust you, and then they're gonna be not a problem asking or referring you to somebody else that trusts you. But then one of the things that we do is we follow up with that referral, treat them with a white glove approach, and if we win them and close them, we don't send them a check or whatever it is. What we do is we find out something that they like to do, and then we send them a gift based off what they like to do as our show appreciation of thanks for that referral, thanks for trusting us and where it comes from. And they just keep coming at that point.
That's awesome. Mr. Smith, what'd you do for your
first client? Wow. Well, I was break fix for a very long time, right? And so I started this MSP journey really in 2015 from a break fix shop since 2003. I didn't know what the hell I was doing when I first started, but I did have some clients that I was servicing on a, they would call basically break fix. They were businesses they would call, there would be an issue. I would come fix it. So funny enough, I have a client that was like that, who's a client to this day, who's an architect who was redoing a project for a client. He had that client, they needed cabling done. They needed a new computer system, all this stuff, because they were basically moving into a whole new space. So he referred me to do all of that. And this was since I set it all up, I used that as the example of, hey, since I set all this up, now you need somebody to manage it. And I stumbled through a presentation, way underpriced it. And to this day, she's a client of mine. And it's funny enough, the story I told earlier today about the client, this is that client's husband. So I had him as a client too, doing break fix work. Never knew that. They took me like 2 years later to realize that they were married. That they were in the same house. But it's just funny enough. So, she is funny when she said, I'm going to refer you to my husband, and she gave me his name. I said, that's already my client. She goes, what? I was like, yeah. But anyway, it's just, so again, I kind of fell into it from having a good relationship with the architect, who's my client, who's on a client on a contract with me to this day, to her who's on a contract with me to this day, to her husband who's on a contract with me to this day. And I've, with him, it's been like 10 years or something, like maybe 11 years, something like that. He's been a client, but that's kind of how I fell into it. So I'm still trying to perfect that pitch, but
same. For us, similar, what we were is, very involved in the nonprofit world, very involved in the associations. I'm in the West Loop of downtown Chicago, so it's more of like the business corridor, restaurant row, things of that nature. But for those to provide context, this is where McDonald's decided to open up their global headquarters and moved it from the suburb of Oak Brook. Google opened up their main Chicago location. So Chicago, LA, and I forgot the other, I think it's Austin, or forgot where the other hub is. But essentially, these are the three main offices of Google, and they share their projects. So I knew that with these opening of bigger Fortune 500 companies, I think Fortinet just came through. I knew that a lot of small businesses were going to try to attract themselves into this area. And so I made the bet on moving to the area closer to where it was, partnered up with an association versus the chamber. So there was a West Loop chamber, and then there was the association. There was 3 of them at the time. And the reason why I decided to do the association, because in my opinion, and I have yet to find success in chambers, is depending on the chamber, especially one for downtown Chicago, they have all these events, they take your fee, but I have never felt that, other than like doing the mailers or doing anything like that, have they done anything specific or individually for you, right? Because they have so many members, and if you're not part of that clique, things of that nature. Like, I was a part of the Illinois Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, and the old regime, I had such a great relationship with all of them. They were technology first, things of that nature. When they left and there was a new entirely team, now they're now focused on infrastructure, focusing on a lot of the things that were not really of what the old team used to focus on. So I kind of fell off on there, but now there's new relationships that were built on that chamber. So if you're not kind of in the clique, I guess is the best way to say it. It's not really clique. I hate to use that word, but there's opportunities that tend to get, lost out. And that's probably on my own of not being more involved and trying to go from there. But when you go with an association, usually they're doing almost the same thing as what a chamber is doing, but with less dollars, scrappier, and really trying to figure out what to do for the community. So that's what I did. And one thing led to another, where I was introduced by their member director to another bigger MSP at the time, which has since been acquired, And we built a really great relationship where she said, hey, you know, I qualify these clients as my own. I have this client and a below that I really don't, they don't fit for what we were trying to do, but I don't want to tell them no and give them like that harsh customer service. I'd love to refer them over to someone to talk to, and that we can know that are going to, you know, be up to par to what our standards are. We had a great conversation, compared stacks, really talking about one thing led to the other, and they became our referral source. So what was great about that is all of the avenues that they were in, the BNIs, the chamber work, the marketing dollars that they invested, it all came in from there. And if it didn't qualify, it would be referred to me, which would give me a lot of great warm referrals. That's how I got my first client, which is a physical therapy client, back in 2018. And to this date, they're, what is this, 8 years later? No, 7, 6. Math is hard. 6 years later, they're still my client, opened up 2 additional locations. And that's what has grown for me. So going back to what Corey said, you know, if you don't ask, you're not going to be able to, you just got to ask, you know, closed mouths don't get fed. And so being able to have the relationship to build on that and partnering with a bigger MSP, that was my way in with the bigger MSP. Because I know a lot of us, we always say, hey, partner with a big MSP, but a lot of people don't know how to do that. That's how I did it. I did it through an association. There was already a mutual relationship there. I leveraged that, and that's how I gained my first client to then build onto that moving forward.
Love it.
Yeah, we just gotta, it's good. We just gotta keep ask for the sale, basically. I guess is the way you say it, right? You gotta ask for it, stay on top of it, and keep going with it. I know we're short on time here, so we're gonna wrap up. I do want to say this episode should be coming out during the Thanksgiving holiday week. So for all who to celebrate, happy Thanksgiving from us here. Hope you all have a safe, eat well, stay healthy, get out and exercise on Friday or whatever you got to do to get it all off.
Hopefully my face will still be here because we're deep frying 2 turkeys. So
yeah, I got to do one too, buddy. I got to do one, only one. But before we wrap up, I know we're short on time. Any final thoughts, guys?
No, keep on pushing, keep on going.
That's for sure. Don't give up, man. The struggle is real, but it can overcome it for sure.
And I'll say this, remember, I say 9, Paco says 17, the number's probably somewhere like 26 or something, but keep getting those touches and that'll keep getting the, that'll bring the business in. It may take a little bit longer than we want, but, we got to stay with it and stay consistent. And I think consistency is key here, sure, which will help us all grow and get to where we are. And last thing is, Corey mentioned this in the beginning about how many MSPs there are. And I know we all have that same experience, but there's still enough business for us all to go. There's enough business out there for all of us. So just keep, finding them, do it the right way. And I think, consistency will pay off in the end.
For sure.
Now, with that, I'd like to say thank you again for joining us. Catch us every week. We're on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/MSP Unplugged. Do us a favor, hit the like button, subscribe, click the notification button to be notified whenever a new episode is available. You can also catch us on our podcatcher apps. That's Spotify, Apple Music, and some other ones. I'm screwing this up really bad here, but you guys know what they are. Just catch us there as well. We're trying to release an episode at least every week. But for Paco, Corey, and myself, I want to say thank you again. Happy Thanksgiving, and we'll see you next time on MSP Unplugged.